Mayor, if you would, step forward this time.
That's fine. We're going to talk to the microphone, please.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Well, first and foremost to the board, I thank you for just a couple minutes to say a few words. I say on behalf of the city, absolutely on behalf of the mayor's office. From a board standpoint, I would say, Ms. Spears, you were wrong. You said if we could make this work, when I say that, maybe City Hall. I've never seen anything cooler than that right there. I'm sorry, you guys have done a fabulous job. And I will say on behalf of the mayor's office to the board, I want you guys to know first that I have full confidence in you guys. For us to say this is your decision is absolutely correct. To say we have nothing to do with it is absolutely incorrect. Because we're the ones, from a mayor and council standpoint, that put you guys on this board. And so I appreciate you being here. And tonight's going to be a long night of listening, of presenting on a board standpoint from the folks that do the day-to-day operations in our community. And you guys are here every other Monday night, and I thank you so much for what you're going to do. And I know tonight you're talking on the specifics of the safety for your employees and the economic side of what happens within the water board. And it is critical that that's discussed, and I also think it's important we talk about the autonomy that we have, yet the connection that we have. Because this board is autonomous from us in the city of Madison. And yet, if we don't work together, our community does not benefit. So from a board standpoint, I want you to know that on an operational standpoint, our guys and your guys do it, and I say guys and gals, let's put it that way, do an incredible job of working together. I mean, a perfect example is Gillespie Road. I called it Emory the other day, probably about 2 months ago. I said, I'm not sure an organization can mess up the side of a road any more than you guys have. And then we turned around and I said, and yet, 3 weeks later, you not only put it back together, but in working with the city, you put a sidewalk on top of it. And that's the kind of thing that I hope our community appreciates that we're doing together. I also think it's critical that we talk about growth. Because in your business model, as you guys present, the autonomy of decisions for the city, as far as financially making sense, and the water board are autonomous, and yet if we can work together on certain things, we stretch that dollar as far as we can. One of the things that you have helped us with in changing how things in essence were done is as non-Madison proper organizations, or whether it's an apartment complex, a housing organization, comes in and says we like water, you guys are now giving us an idea of a discussion. Because in many instances, is that beneficial to you? You get 300 apartments, it's huge. Is it beneficial to the city and the school system? It may be not at the level that would help us. And so those decisions, we're at least getting a heads up in that discussion, and we appreciate that. So in the end, I'm going to leave 2 minutes for everybody else. Thank you for everybody in our community for being there. This is by far one of the top 2 or 3 top amount of emails that our city has received in the mayor's office and city council in my 13 years of being here. So it is important to our community that they voice their opinion. Ms. Spears, thank you so much. You were right in the ways that we've calculated how all these are for the board. We've shared every email with them, and these guys are coming in ready for every one of them. I can assure you I have. Thank you guys for your time. And again, we respect your decision. I know you're going to look at everything, safety, business, and again, you have to make sometimes tough decisions, and sometimes I won't say political, but sometimes I don't make everybody happy. Thanks for what you're doing. For all of us.
Thank you. All right. We will allow an opportunity for the subject to speak after the presentation by staff. You signed up ahead of time. Normal rules will apply. 5 minutes. Yeah, closer your mouth. Did you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. We will allow you to speak, but after the presentation by the staff. You signed up to have 5 minutes.
Closer.
Let me stand. I'm used to standing. Okay. As I was saying, we will allow you an opportunity to address the board. Sign up ahead of time, you have 5 minutes. you did not, you'll have 3. First presentation tonight will be by staff. The information that we've heard, we've digested over a period of time. Hopefully that'll be enlightening to most of them. Okay? So you'll have 5 minutes if you signed up ahead of time, 3 if you did not. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Davis. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Woody Sanderson. I am the attorney for the board, and I have served in that capacity since 1989. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight and for your interest in the issue of fluoridation in Madison Utilities water supply. I'm pretty confident that I'm the only person in the room tonight that was also present when this board voted in 1990 to initiate fluoridation in Madison water. I have to confess I don't remember a whole lot about the details of that discussion when fluoridation was first approved. However, I have a very good memory of the board members who made that decision and of the members who have served you on this board in each of the last 35 years. What I can say about that is that the members of this board, then and now, have served long hours for very little reward, and have made decisions, large and small, significant and mundane, at every board meeting, twice every month, for the term of their service on the board. I also know they expect and receive well-developed, informed, and professional recommendations and advice from their management staff and the consultants when making those decisions. There's now quite significant interest, obviously, in the community concerning the issue of fluoridation. I know that the board respects and appreciates that interest that has been expressed. At the end of the day, when the board's decision is made or affirmed, whether you agree or disagree, I hope you'll recognize that the board members before you have applied their good judgment to this decision and have reached their decision in good faith based on the best interest of the ratepayers as they see it. In my role as attorney for the board, I am not a policymaker. That duty falls to the board and the recommendations of its management. I do believe, however, I can provide a few facts and information that may be applicable to the discussion tonight. The board has now fluoridated water for 35 years. Fluoridation began in this country about 80 years ago and became quite common practice based on findings of the medical community that it has some positive benefits to dental health. That is not to say that its use is or ever has been without controversy. To the extent that the use of it is beneficial, is the extent to which it is subject to spirited debate, as you have demonstrated recently. Fluoride is a chemical additive. It serves no real purpose with respect to the disinfection of raw water to make it free from harmful levels of bacteria or other agents of disease. In fact, maximum levels of fluoride are regulated by EPA. Over the years, the CDC has set and then subsequently reduced what it considers to be an optimal level of fluoride. Given the nature of water production and distribution, it's virtually impossible for a public water system to provide water, all of which consistently contains fluoride at the CDC optimal levels. To the extent that some individuals should receive more or less fluoride for effective benefits, there's no way to customize that through adding fluoride to the public water system. It is not possible to assure that those who want or need some level of fluoride get it at the appropriate levels, while those who don't want to have it can avoid it. And once added, fluoride is not easily or inexpensively removed. No public water system is required to include in its water, fluoride in its water, unless state or local law demands it, requires it. There is no law applicable to Madison Utilities that requires additional fluoride. So the decision of the board to fluoridate or not is entirely discretionary. We know, of course, that there are scientific studies on both sides of the fluoridation issue. Many in this room have educated opinions on the quality of those studies, and many of you may disagree about conclusions reached by studies on one side or the other. A public utility has no legal responsibility to make determinations regarding varying scientific opinions related to the use of fluoride. The legal requirement applicable to this utility is to follow the law and governmental regulations regarding disinfection and contaminants in the water, and to make required reports concerning water quality. For the first time ever, a federal court recently found substantial evidence to believe that there's significant correlation between fluoridation and lower IQ among children. The court directed the EPA to begin the rulemaking process necessary to determine whether regulations on levels of fluoride in public water are sufficient to protect the public interest. I found no indication that ruling has been appealed or overturned, and we don't know at this point how EPA will react to it. However, since it was decided by September, we have a new EPA administrator in this country and a new Secretary of Health and Human Services. And they have given clear indications about their concerns about continued use of fluoride. In recent days, the state of Utah celebrated the decision of that state to ban fluoride from public water supply. The current EPA administrator and HHS secretary were there celebrating with Utah officials on that occasion and pledging to continue their efforts with the federal government to review regulations concerning fluoride. HHS Secretary Kennedy has stated that he strongly favors banning fluoride from the public water supply. Last week, the state of Florida joined Utah in banning fluoride throughout the state of Florida. And the state of Louisiana is currently considering regulations to do the same. Delivery of fluoride through the public water system may be the most effective means of assuring that all customers have some exposure to fluoride, for good or ill. But it is by no means efficient in delivering fluoride. For example, you may not realize that in the city of Madison in the summertime, upwards of 60% of the water that is sold ends up on your lawn. Of the remaining water sold, only a very small percentage gets into the mouths of young children who may need fluoride for the development of their tooth enamel. There are showers, there are baths, shaving, dishwashing, clothes washing, all kinds of other uses for public water supply where there's really no need for fluoridation and no use for it. Certainly compared to 35 years ago, children and adults get a lot more of the water they consume from bottled water. The American Dental Association has now actually recommended that parents use only bottled water to prepare formula for infants because of the risk of damage to the teeth of newborns from exposure to fluoride. Alternative means of delivering beneficial fluoride in appropriate dosages are also more available than they were 35 years ago, through fluoride toothpaste and fluoride washes, mouthwashes, etc., rinses that are available. Even fluoride drops for adding to bottled water may be obtained in some circumstances. On the flip side, we understand that there are valid concerns about whether poor and disadvantaged citizens have the means to obtain appropriate fluoride treatment for their children. Many among the rest of us find that it may be difficult to assure that our children follow the routine necessary to assure appropriate exposure to fluoride treatment for dental health if there is no public water, if the water supply is not fluoridated. The issue of whether fluoride is a good thing or a bad thing, and is good in what dosage, should be or is certainly a public health issue worthy of discussion. The issue of whether fluoride should be force-fed to everyone through the public water supply, or whether parents should be given choice on whether to expose their children or themselves to fluoride is also a fair issue for debate. But is it really the responsibility of a public water system to make that decision for everybody, absent a statutory mandate to inject fluoride into all public water? While you ponder that question, I want to briefly explain why Madison Utility finds itself addressing this issue before you. Truthfully, it really has very little to do with the merits or demerits of the public health issue regarding fluoridation. Frankly, the precipitating issue, that has led to this debate is the board's planned rehabilitation of the Keene water treatment plant. The board has two plants, Keene plant and the larger Quarry plant. The Keene plant has been out of service for some time. As the design of the Keene plant project progressed last fall, Madison Utilities had to consider what to do about feeding fluoride through the plant. Damage from fluoride corrosion required very substantial and expensive redesign and capital construction costs to make fluoride injection possible there. And of course, as mentioned, these issues were occurring at a time when political changes across the country are occurring with respect to injection of fluoride in public water supply. And there are likely changes to policy and regulations at the CDC and EPA that may be coming. Normally, when regulatory change is anticipated, it's a simple matter to wait for regulation to be issued and take whatever action is necessary to comply with it. However, here the board finds itself in a different circumstance. Its design process for the Keene plant had gone forward, and they determined that in order to complete that design, they would incur approximately at least $450,000 in additional capital costs to make the plant capable of distributing fluoride. This determination forced some examination of the fluoridation issue. Would the board require its engineers to include the improvements necessary to add fluoride at its Keene plant at a cost of $450,000, given the ongoing national reassessment of fluoride as a public utility, a public water additive? Any such expenditure would simply be wasted if a ban on fluoride occurs. There was also the question of employee safety. The board has been very attuned to the risk of its employees who have to handle fluoride. As you'll hear from the presentation momentarily, fluoride in undiluted water is a very dangerous chemical. Participating in the daily process of assuring that fluoride is fed into the water supply requires employees to wear protective equipment, and they are regularly exposed to risk of accidental spills which could be deadly. Such exposure may be warranted when necessary to provide safe and healthful drinking water. But is it really worth the risk to continue adding a chemical additive which is not legally required, or which may be headed toward substantially more restrictive regulations, or being banned altogether? Given these various factors facing the board had to decide whether it made sense to continue to feed fluoride into the board's water supply. Faced with all of these factors, the board voted to discontinue feeding fluoride and proceed with the Keene plant project without including a fluoride facility in that renovation. Whether you agree or disagree with the decision made by the board, I hope you can understand why, under these circumstances, it reached the decision it did. You may argue that it would have been better for the board to publicly address the issue before its vote in March. However, from its perspective, the 90-day notification requirement in state law is included there precisely to provide time for public comments before implementation of any change. Its first responsibility is to notify the state that it has decided to make that change. It gave that required notice. Subsequently, based on expressed opinions in the community on the issue, the board has heard many of you at public comments last week and has now scheduled this public hearing to provide further information and to hear additional input from the public. There's still ample time for the board to consider your input in light of the public hearing and to determine whether to reverse course or stay the course that it has set. Finally, let me say that I appreciate, and I think the board, I speak to the board for this, in expressing its appreciation for the civility that you have shown in the discussions and debate we've had in the public meetings so far. We trust that that will continue as the board considers your input tonight. Your input is welcome and will be given, and you will be given an opportunity to address your concerns to the board. We do ask that you listen attentively to the presentation made by the board's management, and we will provide some additional information and context to the board's decision. We also ask that when you are given an opportunity to speak, you'll consider the fact that the board has heard from many of you on May 5th, and there's no need to repeat the views and comments provided at that time. Additionally, we are aware that some of you may have prepared comments to deliver here, but if you come forward to speak, if your points have already been made by someone else, you may wish to consider modifying them to add anything that you feel needs to be added, but not repeat things that have already been heard. We want to be respectful of your time and the time of your fellow speakers. So with that said, management staff will proceed with the presentation they have prepared for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Woody. I guess first couple things. For those that are standing in the back, there are a few seats on the very front row if y'all prefer to sit, or you can remain standing. That's up to you guys. Once again, the restrooms are through that door. We have one of our employees that is there in an orange t-shirt that's going to be able to direct you to the closest restroom. This is a very long presentation, so please bear with us. Every question that was asked via email was addressed in some form or another. Now, there were a lot of questions that were duplicated. We're not going to go through every individual's personal question and address it that way, so there are a lot of things that are clumped together. First of all, everybody should know everybody on board, but we will go through Mr. Terrence Tatum, if you'll raise your hand, Chairman, Mr. Terry Schraub, Vice Chairman, Mr. Larry Miles, Director, Mr. Al Sullivan, Director, and Ms. Connie Spears, Director, and everybody we just heard from Woody Sanderson, our Board Attorney. As far as management team goes here at NU, we have Mr. Emery DeBoard, the General Manager, Mr. Gary Sparks, the Finance Manager, Mr. David Moore, the Water Manager, myself, Mark Bland, the Wastewater Manager, Misty Leftwich, Customer Service Manager, and then we also have Jody Parker, our Executive Secretary, Drew Green, he's actually out sick today, he is not in attendance, and Mr. Reese Lee in the back, who's going to be working the timer for the comment period.
This is where I get to take over. This is the Madison Utilities mission statement. This is very important to every employee and the board here. I'll read it to you. Our mission is to protect the public health and environment by providing abundant, affordable, and high-quality drinking water, and providing environmentally sound and affordable wastewater treatment and disposal, and providing efficient, reliable, and courteous service. This is kind of a recap of what Woody said. This is a fluoridation timeline to give kind of a history of fluoridation in the United States. I'm not going to read every one of these, but kind of hit the highlights. In 1945, Grand Rapids, Michigan was the first city to fluoridate its drinking water. 1958, Madison Water Works Board was incorporated. It's now Madison Utilities. Huntsville authorizes expenditure in 1959 of funds for fluoridation. 60s, U.S. Public Health Service launches the National Fluoridation Program. 1962, the U.S. specified the optimal level of fluoride to range from 0.7 to 1.2. The 80s, sodium fluoride, chemical symbol NaF, formulations. In dentistries, replaced stannous fluoride due to improved effectiveness, and stability. 1985, 55% of the population in the U.S. have access to fluoridated water. 1990, Madison Water Board authorizes adding fluoride to its water. In 1991, Madison Water Board implements addition of fluoride at approximately 1 milligram per liter. 2014, following public hearing and fluoridation debate, Madison Utilities lowers the fluoride dosing rate to 0.7 milligrams per liter. In 2015, the U.S. government lowers the recommended optimal level of fluoride to 0.7 milligrams per liter. 2018, Madison Utilities adopted a plan to scale back and retired its Keene water treatment plant as part of the long-term water production and distribution system strategy. 2020, MU's proposed long-term strategy changed. The Keene water treatment plant was to be reconditioned and upgrades were undertaken to bring this water treatment plant to full operational condition, knowing that additional significant renovations would be required. In 2024, Madison Utilities engineers are engaged engineers to support this water treatment project. Significant fluoride-related damage was discovered at this time in the existing structures and the chemical feed equipment. Project design revised to relocate fluoride storage dosing systems into a new facility. Preliminary estimates for this fluoride facility was approximately $450,000. The board was informed of these costs that were associated with the project and hazardous nature of the fluoride chemical to both employees and infrastructure. March 17, 2025, Madison Utility votes to remove fluoride effective June 16. Contract for Keene water treatment plant was awarded without including fluoride at this facility. May 5th, 2025, the board meeting, 71 in attendance, 17 registered speakers, and 16 with 3 minutes. May 5th, 2025, Louisiana Senate passed a bill to remove fluoridation from the public water, and it moved on to the House. May 6th, the Florida governor signed a bill banning fluoride effective July 1st. May 7th, Utah's ban on fluoride went into effect. EPA administrator and the HHS secretary celebrated that announcement at the Utah press conference. May 13th, Madison conducts a public hearing on the fluoridation issue. And as of today, at roughly 1 o'clock, the FDA began action to remove ingestible fluoride prescription drug products for children from the market.
So the first thing we wanted to address was the questions directly from our board members to staff via email or through phone calls or whatever. So this section's actually a little short. We're very open with the board. We don't hide anything. There's nothing to hide. So
in this, we were presented questions from the board, and these are the questions and responses. First question, have detrimental effects of fluoride on property and employees changed since vote? Response is no. Question, if we decide to continue fluoridation, what is the appropriate course of action if, when, EPA, HHS recommends removal of fluoride from water? Under current Alabama legislation, regulations, MU would have to again give a 90-day notification. EPA or ADM could impose other mandates regarding the time frame for banning or reducing fluoride, subject to legal requirements or notification. If we remove fluoride from the system, are there any reasonable ways for our residents that want fluoride to put it in their health dental regimen? Reasonable home fluoridation systems are not available on the open market. Proper dental care would be recommended means of fluoride administration. Fluoride toothpaste, mouthwash, drops, all these could be applied and could be subject to prescription by a healthcare professional. If we leave fluoride in the system, are there any reasonable ways for our residents that don't want fluoride to remove from the water? The most popular way to remove fluoride from a home water supply is through a home reverse osmosis system.
All right, so what you see here is a aerial view of the Keene Water Treatment Plant. So this is going to be very important on some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about in the near shore. So where you see the word chemical building, that is our bulk chemical storage. So right here in this back corner of this building is where we bulk kept fluoride. The chemical line runs underground and came up through here, basically right to this spot. This is where we had our day tank. So the day tank is where we transfer chemical from the bulk tank to the day tank that is then injected into the system. When our engineer saw all the damage that had occurred, not only in the filter building, but also in the bulk chemical storage, that is when we had to come up with an alternate plan for injecting fluoride. So that alternate plan meant getting it out of all the buildings. So that are basically occupied by people. So the recommendation was to build a brand new building that would only hold 2 totes, which are 300 gallons apiece, of fluoride here, run an underground line, and then go to an injection manhole right here. So this is the Keene layout.
Madison Utilities does not receive taxpayer funds. Operating revenues are generated through commodity, water and wastewater sales, availability fees, and other fees.